Hey, for the next couple of minutes, I'm going to rock your world, talking about not your whole world, just your content management world, talking about some great tools, one in particular called Feedly, that number one is going to take some pressure off your inbox by giving you a place to put all of the non-essential information, the stuff that you have to read every day, and then turn it into content marketing. The thing that I love about Feedly, it's the one place to put the sites, the sources, the smart people that you track, the searches, the terms, and the keywords that you need to master, and the someday maybe information that you might get around to blogging about or sharing someday when it's appropriate. Feedly is so critical because it meets all of my recommendation criteria. It's best of class, it's cloud-based, it's completely cross-platform, it's freemium, and it's robust. I say never use two tools where one will do, and Feedly is the one tool that works great on mobile platforms and at the desktop level, unlike Flipboard and some of the other tools that you may be currently using. Not only that, but it publishes and it archives for me. So this is the place where I manage all of my information. I want to take a look at a mobile-based content marketing workflow. How do we configure Feedly? How do we process content? How do we produce content? How do we post-process on the desktop? And how do we collect it all in RebelMouse? So if you're ready, just let the video continue to play. Hi, this is Todd again with some more insights on how to use the mobile version of your product for optimal productivity. In this session, I'm going to be talking to you about how to configure Feedly, which is my favorite tool for managing the news and information that we need to manage in order to further nurture our expertise, or, just make us smarter. We've all got to consume way more information than we have time for, and have to stay on top of a lot of different things. And here's how we do it. So I want to show you how it is that I configure my settings so that Feedly is going to work the best in my experience. So tap on the hamburger in the upper left-hand corner and slide down to settings, and just want to review. First of all, the start page is the home page. We have the option of selecting a couple of different things, but here I want to go and select home as the start page. This next button is the single most important button. By default it's turned off, but we want to turn it on. And the reason that I do that is I want to make sure that when I mark things as red on my tablet that I'm not seeing them again on my desktop, and vice versa. My favorite saving tool, have lots of different options: Pocket, Instapaper, Evernote, and OneNote, but I prefer Feedly, and later on I'll show you why. Favorite sharing tool, we have a choice between Twitter, Facebook, Google+, email, SMS. I choose Buffer, and one of the reasons why is, first of all, the Buffer option is only available on iOS, and number two, the buffer is gonna keep me from dumping too many things into my sharing stream all at once. The favorite browser in this particular case is Safari, and the reason why is Safari supports bookmarklets, whereas Chrome does not. Normally I would prefer to use the Chrome browser. Look and feel, I don't really have a lot to say here. There are some different options for how you want to view the content on your tablet or iPhone, but I prefer to use the list view. I have all of these options turned on. The most important one is the one called long press to save. That means all I've got to do is to hold down my finger, and I'm going to be able to I'm going to be I need more coffee. I'm going to be able to save things to Feedly for processing later. Next option here is kind of interesting. Feedly allows us to put in a tagline, which can be just about anything, but I choose to make it a hashtag. Okay, and then right below that, I can enter in my Twitter and Facebook information, but also want to choose a template. And a template, unfortunately, only gives me 3 options, but this is going to be the template for sharing. You can either have the title in quotes followed by the URL and the quip, which is the tagline that we just entered. Why it doesn't say tagline, I don't know, but the quip is the tagline is the quip. Title, URL, and quip is the one that I've selected, and then quip followed by title and URL is another option. So I set that. The only other thing that you might possibly want to set is if you're using Instapaper or Bitly, you might want to enter your information in there. So with that, I am done, and my Feedly in iPad is now optimally configured for what we're going to do next. Now that Feedly has been configured, I want to show you why I think that consuming news with Feedly is probably the best and fastest, and Feedly on mobile is probably the best and fastest way that you can consume huge quantities of information in a short amount of time. So what I normally do in my news consumption workflow, first thing that I do in the morning is go to my favorites section. Okay, and in my favorites section, what I do is I simply remember I said that the option was to save, and I can go in and I can take a look, for example, at this particular content, and I could process it at this point. But what I'm able to do, if you notice, I just went and I flipped up, right? I just swiped an entire screen up. And then watch what happens when I go back. All of these articles have been marked as red. You can tell because they're grayed out as opposed to having a black, bold title. And I can go through and I can save the different content that I want to save. Of course, I always have to check Calvin and Hobbes. It's a critical part of any early morning reading. And continue to go through here. One of the things that's kind of interesting is I can even go through here if I wanted to. And let's say I just wanted to share this directly as it is. I got a couple of different options. This is the kind of thing that I would normally send to Facebook. So all I have to do is to tap the Facebook icon. And I can share directly to Facebook from Feedly. Okay, and then I can continue on with my reading. Oh, I'm a quote maven. I always love good quotes. And I'm going to save this, and later on you'll see what I do with good quotes as part of the Feedly process. Okay, so I can continue to go through here, and in my workflow, what I normally do is save things that look interesting, and then set aside these things and review them during a 1 hour processing time that I do um, as part of my content marketing campaign or content marketing process. Okay, so that looks interesting to me, and again, I'm just pressing down on articles when I see them. Oops, I unsaved it. Now I want to save it again. Okay. Oops, this looks like an interesting one. And what I just did in that short period of time was to process a bunch of different articles. And just to put a fine point on this, part of the value of this is that these articles, I mean, first of all, this good information is coming to me. And it's exposing me to a bunch of new ideas in a short period of time in a very easy to use tool. Second thing, it's also giving me the opportunity to share things as I come across them or process them later. But the last thing, and maybe the least obvious, is that it's keeping all of this news out of my inbox and putting it in a place where I can manage it easily. So think about that before we go on. Another feature that I love about Feedly on a mobile device is that there is a section called Explore. Okay? And in Explore, I'm able to find content that I like. And again, I can specifically share this to all the different sharing tools that I use. How about this, mate? Question mark. And that's for my buddy down in Australia who's continually going back and forth. Apple versus Lenovo. And so I can share that from there. If I want to, I can flip through the rest of the article and notice that when I get down to the bottom, because I'm in the Explore space, I could go and add this to Feedly and decide that I want to put this in my business section. So again, then going through the text space, and I'm just saving things that I want to see a little bit later on. I'm very interested in aviation, so anything that flies is most likely going to be shared. Now, using this particular tool, which is Buffer, I already have accounts that are set up for sharing, and so I'm going to share this out to my aviation stream. Using this tool called Buffer. Notice I can flip through the article, and when I get to the bottom it goes back into place. So this swiping action is a very useful tool. So again, in this Explore section, I'm just going through different things that kind of catch my eye. And when I see something that I like, I can bookmark it for later, or I can share it to Twitter, Facebook, Google+, email, Evernote, OneNote, Pocket, Instapaper, mark it as unread, or send it out to the browser. So one of the things that I like about this particular tool is that it allows me to consume huge quantities of information very quickly, and to at least scan things that I want to pay more attention to later on. Also have the opportunity to directly share, from here. But Feedly and its predecessor, Google Reader, are the reason why I'm able to stay on top of my craft the way that I am. And I can't recommend it more strongly as a valuable part of your thought leadership campaign. And I just want this to serve as a quick reminder that Feedly works just as well on an iPhone or an iPod Touch as it does on an iPad. All the same tools. So the last question that remains is, now that you're producing all this great content, where does it go? Well, the short answer is on your blog, but how you do it is kind of the art and the craft of it. You want to share, all this great content that you're finding in a way that does not affect your search engine optimization. And the best way that I've found to do that is using a tool called RebelMouse. And you're looking now at my RebelMouse page. It has some really interesting features that, quite frankly, I think that, I wish that Blogger and WordPress would learn from. But in any case, what RebelMouse does is allows you to set up content streams from all of your social media. So whatever tools you decide to use for sharing, whether it's Twitter or Facebook or Google Plus or Instagram or LinkedIn or Flickr or Tumblr or whatever, RSS feeds, Pinterest, all of this content can be automatically brought into a RebelMouse page. Now you might say to yourself, well, okay, that's nice, but what do I do with it? Well, fortunately, the people at RebelMouse have done an amazing job of making this content available as an embed. So I can go into the settings, and I can select what features that I want and how I want it to look. And they even have a handy guide for how to do this. And I can take this now. The RebelMouse site on its, has its own look and feel, completely on its own. But the thing that really amazes me is what it is that they have been able to do with it. Here's a blogger blog. And if I go there and I call my RebelMouse page my life stream, and if I click on my live stream, I'm able to seamlessly incorporate my RebelMouse page into Blogger. Okay, so there's all the same content, but notice that it does not have the same look and feel as the RebelMouse page. It's able to transparently adapt to my website. Here's another example. This is self-hosted WordPress. And again, I have a live stream. And again, RebelMouse is going to take on a totally different look and feel. And one of the most amazing things to me is that, first of all, not only can I incorporate this into a page, But if I go to my blog, I can also display this in the sidebar instead of the ever, ubiquitous Twitter feed. Instead, I can have my RebelMouse stream in the sidebar. The last thing, the cherry on top of the sundae, is that many times tools like this only work with websites like Blogger and WordPress that fully support HTML or JavaScript. But you can even use RebelMouse with WordPress.com, which is very, very rare. So RebelMouse gets my highest marks for utility and adding value to the content marketing process. And I strongly strongly recommend that you take a look at it.